cults, coercion, and sexuality in society. These are the topics for the Frankie Files. I'm Frankie Tues, your host, and I'll continue to focus on my own family story as well as news and recovery info for those who've survived, especially the adult children of cults. New each Tuesday. Trigger warning. Some people may find topics discussed in this episode difficult. Please proceed with caution.
The Frankie Files.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 63 of Frankie Files podcast. I'm Frankie Tues. I want to launch this segment while Second Tuesday is about sexuality always. In this segment, I want to look at sexploitation in specific cult cases. A lot of cults are sexually oriented and see sex as one of those perks of being leadership. It's a legal gray zone which religious leaders enjoy much more than any other cult. Hashtag because God. But in today's comparison, one cult is a religious nomadic group which has been from Atlanta to multiple countries and back. And one is a Silicon Valley fad which captured the attention of horny men, the wallets of horny men and women, and anyone with a sex issue with the promise to heal them. Okay, let's check them out. I want to compare and contrast two recent criminals who were cult leaders that used sexploitation for personal and financial gain in their cults successfully for some time. The first is Carbon Nation Cult, which I've covered since April of 2022 on frankietees.substack.com in case you want to check it out. There is a lot here. The Carbon Nation Cult in brief is based in Atlanta, Georgia, which is in Cobb County. The state has jailed leader Eligio Bishop on revenge porn. That's what they got him on, and there's many other reports, but we'll get to that in a minute. Bishop, who also is called Nature Boy, Three God, and Eligio Bishop, teaches nudity, nature, black power, uses people to create videos of sex instruction for the groups. His doctrine is based upon procreation of more Carbon Nation members. It's tribal in tone, and nature is a focus. Bishop instructs his members on who to pair with and teaches with an authoritative hand, giving doctrine as the second coming of Jesus. He has a commune space where members all live, and much of their drama has been recorded online videos, now from prison via Nature Boy TV on YouTube. And it's a bit like a reality TV show. They like the exposure. Same time, the world is fascinated with this one because it's a black culture in the lens, as well as the overt sexual nature of the doctrine preached. It's cult porn, no doubt. According to a video of Eligio preaching posted and broken down by Anti-MB Miracle B2 on her video Nature Boy and Sperm Receptacles. Quote, women have to get a tattoo on their butt cheeks with Alicia's name on it and a fruit. These women in the video were wives, but they've been demoted back down to slave. And Auntie says, yeah, you're elevating to a higher consciousness. We all have herpes, bumps on the lips, eye, everywhere. You're a big old leper colony, but elevate your mind. Here, listen to some of the excerpt from her video.
And I think this is around the time where they went and got tattoos. Well, she already had a tattoo of Eligio's name. All of them have to get their name, get the name of Eligio tattooed, Eligio's name tattooed on their ass with a picture of a fruit on their right butt cheek. You know, they have to do some slavery shit. So, yes, this is what you get in carbonation. You have to look like this. Yes, yes.
But are they good for you? No. So, good dick is dick that fucks you before you even have the dick. It's called organic dick. That organic
Look
dick. Can you fuck her mind first? Before you even stick your dick in her? That's good dick.
Every one of these idiots have been passed around multiple times. Okay? Multiple times.
Your nails are the windows to your soul.
How about your eyes?
The body.
For the windows to
The
your soul.
body. Show them your nails again. The body.
I'm good.
Yes. The body does what? The body receives sunlight. That's why your nails are clear. They're not made to have colors on them. Your nails are transparent because they allow light into your bloodstream.
You're listening to The Frankie Files. FrankieFilesPodcast.com. From what I could find on Reddit, Eligio Bishop has been up and running since 2015. He's been kicked out of Panama, Belize, Mexico, Costa Rica, and our own state of Hawaii on various charges. He's known as Three God. Sex is an important part of his doctrine. He's obviously discovered how powerful using sex to control someone is. There are multiple reports from ex-members of physical abuse of both men and women. A young member is deceased, possible murder named Loyal recently, and talk of castration being a sign of loyalty to the leader, but that's in a private video without much collaboration. I'm sure more will come out, and a lot of ex-members are talking on social media right now as this story increases. He is still in jail, but in danger of not getting a speedy trial, which can often lead to mistrials. People are concerned. At times, he takes to showing the skirmishes of his various lovers on videos, like on a YouTube video from Lisa Says What 00. So that's on YouTube at Lisa Says What 00 from a year ago, where Velvet and Malia are made to physically fight on camera at the beach while Nature Boy films live. Wow. Sexploitation of young women, and there isn't any pay for them. That's what sexploitation's about. Just bleeding, salt in wounds, and a fat lip. Okay, the second cult I want to bring in the loop here is One Taste. It was a registered business in the U.S. from Northern California. Nicole Dodone claimed she had cornered a technique of orgasmic meditation where a man strokes a woman's clitoris for about 15 minutes, creating sensations in both their bodies. She claimed she had used these techniques and others to heal past sexual trauma, but it's been revealed she was actually incurring more sexual trauma with her demands on members. The interesting thing about sexploitation is it goes back to sexual mind control. And so to get to that for a second, way back in episode 11, I went head on into this topic. I introduced it to the podcast. It's about the fact that controlling someone's sex is the deepest type of control anyone can have on an individual. Some excerpts to loop back into this topic from episode 11, I used the website decision-making-confidence.com, and it has a lot of great info if you want to bookmark that. On the website, it states that, quote, psychopaths manipulate people's emotions and recognize that sex and mind control are a powerful combination. If they can convert the relationship into a sexual one, they begin to have much more control because the person has opened themselves up in a much more intimate way. Sex and mind control is also used in many cults to maintain control and manipulate the members. Remember that many cult leaders are psychopaths, and the doctrine and rules are a reflection of them, and they typically have irregularities in their sex lives. Cult leaders realize that controlling people's sexuality can give them a lot of power. Changing the beliefs and values about sex is another way to destroy an individual's limits and boundaries and keep them within the group. Okay, so let's look at how each of these cults is doing that. Eligio Bishop, who calls himself Three God, claims he's teaching the Black nation, his followers, the way back to God, the way to have sex, to stop feeling shame about nudity. And in a video I saw on TikTok, Bishop even says he has his own son there when he has sex with his wife, and that it's okay for his son to touch his penis after sex. According to Street Stars, ex-member Shaka Zulu says that it all started with melanation. Then he wanted to combine two tribes, his and Eligio Bishop's, that his kids would marry his kids, breeding more black. But Shaka Zulu went to Mexico with the camp and saw it was like, quote, summer camp. He saw stuff he didn't like and bounced. When asked the average age of the Carbon Nation members in this video, Shaka Zulu was the oldest one after Eligio Bishop. So he attracted and targeted people with, quote, no life experience. Nature Boy was already into a polygamous lifestyle. When asked, did Nature Boy look at you and then look at your wife too? Shaka Zulu said, he gets velvet drunk so he can go at it with her, end quote. Then explains that when she passes out, he has sex with Velvet and calls for everyone downstairs to come up one at a time. Who's next? He'd say. Quote, it's like he has a sex demon inside him. It wasn't just him. Once he was lit and drunk, he had a sex demon in him, end quote. And then he said to Eligio, you have no self-control, Shaka Zulu did. So Eligio Bishop was like many religious cult leaders, surrounding himself with young, beautiful women to have sex with, getting money for online speaking sessions, and doing it again the next day. Fundraising was from internet fans, and YouTube alone has his fans at 96,000 right now. His story, though it began in Atlanta, Georgia, has roots all over the world. He's well loved by many Black alternative spiritualists and hated by some as well. He's gone full bore on detaining women. He gets pregnant, having multiple wives and sexual partners, making sex videos, and distributing them is what got him into jail. They call it revenge porn. But he's been using sex as the basis all along for his doctrine. Promoting black breeding is part of what he's all about. That's not the sexploitation, the verbal abuse, the demands of sex from women for their spiritual path and enlightenment, taking away documents, as his ex-wife reported, so that she can't travel, so that she felt imprisoned and couldn't leave. With one taste, which is called an orgasmic cult, Nicole Dodone had written a book on the topic of sexuality called Slow Sex, The Art and Craft of the Female Orgasm. This was in 2012. She started with that. Her book became a bestseller and also had a chapter directed at men by a prominent motivational speaker, as detailed in episode 42 in my interview with Netflix documentary subject Rawan Mipagala. That's the chapter that got his attention to engage with the organization One Taste. The org became a business teaching people to use Eastern philosophies in delayed gratification. Dodone didn't use that term. I recognize it as such. Her concepts were that sex can heal everything. More sex. Sex forward, talking about sex, demonstrating the stroking of the female clitoris, and even being the subject of the stroking on display for crowds where she sought funding from venture capitalists. But as I covered in episode 62, more detailed on this podcast, Dodone targeted the sexually abused, those with sex issues, and sexploited them, claiming all can be healed with more sex. Some had erectile dysfunction, some frigidity or boredom with sex. The bondage fetish community, which is in San Francisco, was so welcoming of this cult. Soon, Dodone amassed fortunes, millions, using this grift. A business with employees who lived in houses owned by the company or in company members' names. Dodone had location in several major cities. For recruitment, a member would initially join a meeting and be sold on the concept. Then they would be told they need to take certain classes. The classes were not cheap. There was a whole structure, sort of like Scientology. If you can't afford the classes, you can become an employee and work against the debt by helping book, run classes, or stroke clitorises in group sessions. Employees were encouraged even to have sex with wealthy potential members. This created a caste system of those with money who could afford all the sex-oriented classes and those without. Employees working their way up through the system. It's prostitution, and that's what the feds are looking at too. Right now, Dodone and her number one teammate are in custody and will be having a trial in New York. The charges are forced labor, and I'll bet you $10 that's just the start of the future charges.
You're listening to The Frankie Files, FrankieFilesPodcast.com.
Using our sex to mess with our heads is the game in sexploitation. So is gaining money. In both Carbonation and One Taste, a growth is promised. In the first, Eligio promises enlightenment, blessings, and a higher consciousness. In One Taste, Dodone promises healing. Neither can make those promises. Both are, in my opinion, sex addicts, like so many cult leaders are. They found a way to combine both sex and power, the ultimate elixir, and that makes them money, drunk on the taking, finding it easier to fool as they get more power, both testing the limits of human nature. Eligio is preying on black people who want to find a way to flourish away from the white system that suppresses non-white males. Dodone is preying on people disillusioned with the tech world. Her startup was from NorCal, rife with Silicon Valley nerds who aren't getting any, and lesbians who want something else. The combination of sexual mind control is never good for the victims. Going back to decision-making-confidence.com, he says, whether it's in a cult or a one-to-one relationship, such as therapist, client, or teacher-student, the imbalance of power means that there is no informed consent, and therefore it constitutes sexual abuse. Repeat, the imbalance of power means that there is no informed consent, and therefore it constitutes sexual abuse. This is really important. Any benefits that may have existed at the start of the relationship are contaminated. Sexual relationships between those with power and those in their care are never justified. When undoing mind control, they say, those who have suffered sexual abuse have special considerations. They may have amnesia for traumatic events. They may initially deny it or not want to discuss it. It is often only after some period of recuperation that they are ready to deal with it. Again, from decision-making-confidence.com, some researchers suggested that people who have suffered sexual mind control may suffer from the following effects, and that they may be acute, delayed, or chronic. Now, here's a bullet point list of effects suffered by sexual abuse, sexual mind control victims. Ambivalence, contradictory feelings towards the abuser. Example, rage, and thinking they're nice people. Next point, guilt, about betraying or exposing the abuser as well as taking all the blame for the abuse. Next point, emptiness and isolation. They're so dependent that they feel a loss when no longer with the abuser. Sexual confusion, contradictory thoughts and feelings and beliefs. Next, difficulty in trusting others. They got it very wrong once. How will they know in the future? Bullet point, identity and role reversal. The victim's identity and well-being may be entangled with that of the abuser. Next, emotional liability, sudden, unexpected emotions, which can be very intense. Next one, suppressed rage. Victims of sex and mind control may have had to deny or hide their anger. There may be deep-seated rage, which has been suppressed for a long period of time. Oh, yeah, I went through that. Next, depression and suicidal risk. Irrational guilt and shame. Anger at the abuser turned against the self can lead to depression and suicidal thoughts. Next one, cognitive dysfunction. Poor attention, concentration, and memory, as well as flashbacks and intrusive thoughts, are very common in those recovering from sexual mind control. Wow. Familiar with the most of these as a sex abuse survivor, and it was in a sex cult, so they used it for control. The thing is, carbonation, Eligio is assigning people to a partner in a role as a spiritual advisor. Clearly, it's random and just his game. The man is not God. In one taste, Nicole is playing God too, assigning people to have sex with strangers to help heal their past trauma. That's not good. Wielding the power of procreation is clearly intoxicating for these leaders, and it's effective. There's no greater coercion than sexual. It's intense. It's personal. It can be devastating emotionally. And if male-female can produce a child to deal with, that's rough if the arrangement is loveless. No matter the result, the perpetrator is getting their fix of power. And the subject of the control is getting energy stolen and manipulated out of time, money, and life. We need to see cult leaders who use sex for control as what they are. Creatures drunk on power, on another's energy and money. They figured out their gift in the world, and it's taking from others. Make no mistake, they do not necessarily enjoy sex. They might be addicted, but they don't necessarily enjoy it. They crave power. It's about that. They also lack restraint. Let's not get it twisted. They're human, and they're twisted more than the average sex addict. They want power over a group. They're like sex addicts on steroids, and I have direct experience with one of these people. Their addictions create their doctrine, and if it takes, thousands or millions will be affected. I see sex as what it is, a possible weapon of mass destruction. It's high time we out the sexploiters of this world, and time society treated this like the high crime that it is, issuing pain that may never heal, wounds that are invisible, and bleeding energy which one never gets back. This has been Sexploitation, a series which explores sexual exploitation by cults in the news. Take a moment to like, follow, share, and if possible, donate to the show in any amount. All helps, and we are currently commercial-free, so thank you in advance for that. Find out more at frankiefilespodcast.com. And always, keep critical thinking.
The Frankie Files.
If you're feeling down and no one's there to actually talk to, there is someone to talk to. Call the Suicide Prevention Hotline anytime. This will pass. Please know that many of us have survived these thoughts. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255 anytime, day or night. There's a friendly person there that can remind you to value the life you have and that this too shall pass. Again, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, or search online, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
The Frankie Files.